Following Nazis marching in Ohio, one of the members went on a hateful rant during a city council meeting. Watch.
Good evening to the people of Springfield. You don't know who I am. My name is Nathaniel Higgers of Blood Tribe. I was at the head of the anti-Haitian immigration march earlier this month. I'm sure the Honorable Mr. Rob Rue recognizes me, considering he supposedly knew of our action before we even arrived.
He's a literal Nazi. He marched with swastikas.
First of all, I would like to dispel the myth that you knew of our march and intentionally had no reaction or made no forewarning about it as a preventative measure. You had no more idea than the police officers or Haitians. And it's frankly insulting to our organization to make such a claim. Second, I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in. And with it, public frustration and anger.
You sound threatening to me. I'm going
Based on the comments
if I could
tonight,
ask the police to go ahead.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you that.
Just sound threatening if you go ahead and just peacefully be removed.
These people didn't ask for this. And they deserve better than to have to put up with violent,
Thank you
unruly
so much.
outsiders.
You're done. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much. Not really thank you, but.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Yeah, it's not really thank you, but and bye-bye. And scene. You may be dismissed now. So let's talk first about what appears to be an alias, okay? Nathaniel Higgers, likely a fake alias using wordplay, hate, N-word. I think you see where he's going here, okay? It's all cute to Nazis. This meeting comes the heels of Nazis marching in Springfield, Ohio, nearly a week after people were seen carrying a hate symbol through downtown Springfield. Concern is growing, prompting the city and its residents to call for unity in the face of hate. Springfield residents, city leaders said they saw a group of mass protesters walking downtown with guns and Nazi flags Sunday. City was quick to denounce the act, referring to the protesters as a hate group. WDTN News with the details. Now, members of the community are concerned about the group's presence, especially with Springfield's growing population of immigrants. They worry the demonstration creates an uneasy feeling for those looking to call Springfield home, despite the rise in hate language. Immigrants are still adamant about making Springfield their home. We're not leaving our county to disturb people in Springfield, said Lindsay Amy. We're just looking for an opportunity. So this is just a basic thing. Looking for a little opportunity here. We believe in free speech, as I'm sure you agree. First, do you think the city council handled the neo-Nazi stepping before the microphone appropriately?
Yeah. I think that he had to step down from the podium, and especially there were people there who were visibly upset that he was even allowed to speak, and they felt that he shouldn't have been up there. And he thinks he's so clever with his name, Nate Higgers, really. So I do think that it was dealt with appropriately. He said, just get off the podium, just stop speaking, just let it be easy. No one's in trouble. Nobody's, going to force you to do anything if you just kind of leave people alone. And, these things are tricky in a country where we have freedom of speech, right? People like this and people who will defend people like this, they will be very quick to claim freedom of speech. People should be able to say whatever they want, whenever and wherever they want to say it to whomever they want to say it to. And we know that that's not the case. That's not really how it works. You can't say things that are dangerous or threatening to people, especially not in a government setting. This is at a city council meeting. So good for the council member for removing him from the podium whenever the council member perceived that he was speaking in a threatening manner toward a specific group of people, in this case, Haitian immigrants. And it's like the last Karen story that we did. You can't yell racist things out of your work truck and not suffer any consequences for doing so. And the people who advocate for unfiltered speech, which is not the same as freedom of speech, they always seem to miss that point. It's like the people who rail against cancel culture without really understanding what it fundamentally is. Freedom of speech means that you won't get arrested for saying certain things in certain settings. It's not without its stipulations. And also, while you may not be arrested for saying certain things, it doesn't mean that people will like you for saying them. It doesn't mean that people will want to hear you speak. It doesn't mean that people will want to continue to support you and your business endeavors. But being unliked is not the same thing as being persecuted. And people who want to oppress others, this is a very common pattern that we see all the time. Those people who want to oppress others, they're often the first ones to claim that they are the ones being persecuted. And this guy is so anti-Haitian people. It's a very specific form of, of bigotry, which is interesting. Maybe they have a particular influx of Haitian people in Springfield. The Haitian people, I feel like they have a lot to feel sympathy and empathy for, though.
Yeah. I just, I do think you make an important point about free speech, because these kinds of people try to exploit free speech and our love and desire to keep it in place by doing things like this, when their real aim is just to hurt, harass, and intimidate. They really want to hurt, harass, and intimidate people. So I think it's a point well taken. And I'm just what it is today. I just find I don't wish, but I say I just kind of put it out there. Don't take it literally, but I wish they would come up with better material. It's getting so tired. Don't you think it's getting so tired? Yes, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it really is. And we've seen it with all of these racist stories that we happen to cover on today's show. Such a fun show, by the way. Thank you, Sharon, for having me on. But, whenever it really shows a lack of critical thinking, because any bit of critical thinking would kind of eradicate a lot of these racist behaviors and ideologies. And you mentioned, perhaps you were joking earlier, that we should study these types of people and how they got the way they are. And studies actually are kind of being done specifically with the younger generation, because what they're seeing now with Gen Z is that there is a divide between Gen Z men and women, whereas the women are much more liberal and progressive, and the men are becoming a little bit more conservative, more chauvinistic, and more conservative overall, right? And we have to wonder how and why that's happening. You have to consider several factors. There's what's going on in this country politically, there's what's going on in the world, and the fact that we have social media now. There's a lot of influence coming in from all over the internet, from maybe not reputable influencers, right? I don't know who decides who gets to be an influencer these days. But, all the kids are taking in all kinds of ideologies from people who maybe they shouldn't be. And on top of that, the more you're on your phone, the less you are out in the world. And I really believe that one of the big things that's going to combat ideas like racism and just general discrimination against certain groups is exposure to those groups, right? The more you understand people, the more you see them as multifaceted, and the more you see cultures as multifaceted, the less hate you have towards them and the less fear you have towards them. And I really feel that racism and any kind of bigotry like that is really rooted in fear. You're afraid that these people are going to supplant you, whether that's economically or just culturally, and the whole, what is it, the great replacement theory. It's all of it rooted in fear. And why are we afraid of each other? If you just talk to your neighbor, you wouldn't be afraid of your neighbor anymore. Or maybe you would. I don't know who your neighbors are.
Well, I think my neighbors are okay over here. I had one neighbor who was, woo, I'll save that story for another day.
I have a Haitian neighbor. Yeah. He's great. I like him. Yeah. So.
And I think try to get along with your neighbors. That's how I was always taught. You don't, But you are so right about what young men, young adolescents, perhaps male, are consuming. I know some who just love Elon Musk and refuse to see any of the downside of the things that he's preaching. So there's that.